The bullet left Emily Carter's rifle at 2,847 feet per second. She watched through the scope as the enemy soldier dropped behind the boulder, his rifle clattering against stone. Clean shot, center mass. She'd done this 43 times before, but when she moved to confirm the kill, she found him still breathing. Blood pooled beneath his shattered vest. His leg twisted at an angle that made her stomach turn. Dark eyes met hers. No fear, just recognition. Two soldiers, same trap. The sky erupted with the shriek of incoming artillery. He spoke in broken English, each word a razor. "You kill me, we both die here." Her finger moved to the trigger, then stopped. Above them, the drone's camera pivoted. The Afghan sun didn't rise so much as detonate across the horizon. Emily Carter lay flat against the ridgeline, her ghillie suit blending with the ochre stone. 3 days into a solo reconnaissance mission, and she'd learned to move with the landscape's rhythm. Breathe when the wind gusted. Shift when the heat shimmered. Become part of the mountain until the enemy forgot mountains could kill. Her M110 sniper rifle rested against her shoulder like an old friend. 14 confirmed kills in 6 months. Not the highest in her unit, but high enough that Lieutenant Graves had stopped questioning her requests for solo deployments. "You've got Carter's eye," Graves had said during her last debrief. "You see things before they happen." She didn't have Carter's eye. She had Jack Reynolds' training. The memory surfaced unbidden. 10 years ago, before Reynolds retired, before Afghanistan became a graveyard for optimism, he'd taken her to a shooting range outside Fort Benning, handed her a rifle 3 times her weight, and said, "Most soldiers aim at targets. You need to aim at futures." "Futures, sir?" "Where the target will be. What he'll do when he hears the shot. How his friends will react." Reynolds had tapped his temple. War isn't about pulling triggers. It's about seeing 3 moves ahead. She'd carried that lesson through Ranger School, through her first firefight in Kandahar, through every mission that left her counting bullet holes instead of breaths. Through her scope now, she counted futures. The valley below held a Taliban supply route. Intelligence said a high-value target would pass through before noon. Her job: observe, confirm, report. Not engage unless absolutely necessary. But Emily had learned that absolutely necessary was a fluid concept in a war that changed definitions daily. Her radio crackled, static, then silence. Communications had been spotty for 36 hours. She was alone in the operational sense, but in the mountains, you were never truly alone. The wind carried voices, the stones held memories. She scanned the valley floor. 2 pickup trucks appeared on the dirt road, kicking up dust that looked like smoke in the harsh light. Through the scope, she counted 6 fighters. Armed with AKs, RPGs, standard loadout for a protection detail. Then she saw him. 7th man, rear truck, sitting differently than the others. Less relaxed, more aware. His rifle, a Dragunov if she wasn't mistaken, held at ready position even in transport. Professional posture, professional weapon. Her pulse steadied. This was the one. She radioed in the sighting. Only static answered. The trucks stopped 300 yards from her position. The fighters dismounted, began setting up what looked like a temporary checkpoint, checking the route before the convoy continued. Smart, disciplined. This wasn't militia. This was trained personnel. Emily adjusted her position, feeling the stone dig into her ribs. She'd need a clean shot if orders came through. The 7th man moved with economy, directing the others without wasted gestures. Leader or advisor, either way valuable. Her radio hissed. A voice broke through, fragmented. "Carter, confirm. Target. Sierra 2-6, I have visual on 7 hostiles establishing checkpoint. Request." The transmission died. She waited. Minutes stretched. The sun climbed higher, turning the air into something solid and crushing. Her water supply was running low. She'd planned for 3 days. This was day 3. The trucks weren't moving. Below, the seventh man separated from the group. He moved to higher ground, began his own surveillance routine, scanning the ridgeline, scanning her ridgeline. Emily's breath slowed. She became stone, became absence. Through her scope, she watched him glass the mountains with practiced patience. He was good, very good. He moved his binoculars in sections, overlapping each sweep, never rushing, and then he stopped, focused on a point 60 yards to her left. She followed his gaze, saw what he saw, a glint, metal reflecting sunlight. Her backup radio antenna, the one she'd positioned as a relay because the primary had failed. Stupid, careless. Reynolds would have boxed her ears. The seventh man lowered his binoculars, raised his rifle, didn't fire. He was smart enough to know that shooting at a glint was amateur hour. Instead, he hand-signaled to his team. 4 fighters began moving up the slope. Emily had 2 options: retreat and lose the target, or eliminate the immediate threat and compromise her position. She thought about futures. If she retreated, the convoy would move, and weeks of intelligence work evaporated. If she engaged, she'd have maybe 90 seconds before the mountain became a kill zone. Reynolds' voice: when the math gets ugly, make them solve it, not you. She made the math ugly. The first shot dropped the lead climber at 200 yards. Center mass. He fell backward, tumbling down the slope in a cloud of dust in loose shale. The other 3 scattered. Good training. They didn't freeze, didn't panic. They found cover and returned fire in her general direction. Rounds snapped overhead, ricocheting off stone. Emily had already moved. 10 yards to the left, new angle. The second climber exposed his shoulder, trying to get a better position. She fired. He dropped. 2 down, 2 to go. Plus 3 still at the trucks, probably flanking by now. And the seventh man, the professional. He wasn't running. He was setting up his Dragunov, finding her, calculating windage. She saw the future in his posture. He fired. The round cracked past her head so close, she felt the pressure wave. He'd missed by inches. She didn't give him a second chance. The bullet caught him high in the chest, just below the collarbone. Not a kill shot. The angle was wrong. She'd rushed it, but enough to put him down. He collapsed behind the boulder, and she lost visual. The remaining fighters opened up with automatic fire. The mountain around her became a storm of copper and lead. Stone chips stung her face. She low-crawled to new cover, her rifle slung across her back. 30 seconds. The shooting stopped. Reload time or repositioning. She used the silence to move again, working her way down the reverse slope, away from the valley floor, away from the fight. But something nagged at her. The seventh man. His fall had been wrong, controlled, like he dropped into cover, not collapsed from a wound. She should have confirmed the kill. Futures, Reynolds had said, see 3 moves ahead. If he was alive, he'd report her position. If he was alive, extraction teams would flood this valley. If he was alive, artillery screamed overhead. Emily threw herself flat as the first shell impacted 200 yards to her south. Then another. Another. The Taliban were calling in their own support, grid-firing the mountain to flush her out or bury her. She scrambled down the slope as the world exploded. Dust and smoke reduced visibility to arm's length. Her ears rang. She tasted copper and cordite. When the barrage lifted, she found herself in a narrow ravine. Temporary cover. She checked her gear. Rifle intact. Ammo, 3 mags left. Water, 1 canteen, half empty. Radio, still dead. And somewhere above her, maybe still breathing, was the seventh man. She should keep moving. Every second here increased her danger. But Reynolds had taught her another lesson, one she'd tried to forget. Unconfirmed kills become tomorrow's problems. Emily worked her way back up the slope. She found him behind the boulder where he'd fallen. Still alive. Barely. The bullet had punched through his chest, lower than she'd thought. Through the lung, by the sound of his breathing. Wet. Labored. He'd pulled himself into a sitting position, back against stone, Dragunov across his lap. Blood soaked his tactical vest. His eyes tracked her as she approached, rifle raised. They were younger than she expected. Mid-30s maybe, hard to tell through the dust and blood. No fear in them, just calculation. The same look she'd seen in her own mirror. He didn't raise his weapon, didn't speak. They both knew the math. Emily's rifle never wavered. Center mass, 2 pounds of pressure on a 5-pound trigger. Who authorized the supply convoy? She asked. Standard interrogation, even if communications were down. Intelligence could still be valuable. He said nothing. His breathing grew worse. A thin stream of blood leaked from the corner of his mouth. She should shoot him. Mission protocol. Enemy combatant, positive ID, hostile territory, clean conscience, no complications. Her finger rested on the trigger. Above them, a new sound. High-pitched whine, getting closer. Drone. She looked up, saw the quadcopter banking over the ridgeline. Not American. Commercial model, modified for reconnaissance. The Taliban had been using them for months, cheap and effective. The drone's camera pivoted, found them, held position. The 7th man spoke, his English surprisingly clear despite the blood. They see you now. They saw me 5 minutes ago. No. He coughed, red foam on his lips. Now they see us both. Together. Understanding hit her like a second bullet. The drone operator couldn't tell friend from foe at this distance. 2 fighters, 1 injured, both trapped. In 30 seconds, whoever was calling the shots would make a decision. Artillery, airstrike, something that would erase the problem and the witnesses. You're lying, she said. Your radio works? It didn't. He knew it didn't. How long, he said, each word costing him, until your people come? She didn't answer. The math was already clear. Extraction protocols required secure comms. No comms meant no extraction for at least 12 hours, probably more. The drone adjusted position, circling lower, confirming targets. So, the enemy soldier said, you kill me, they kill you. Or, the sky split open. The first mortar round landed 50 yards downslope. The second, closer. They were walking the fire up the mountain, bracketing the drone's last confirmed position. Emily made the decision in the space between explosions. She grabbed the enemy soldier under his good arm and hauled him into the ravine. He was heavier than he looked, dead weight and muscle. He gasped as the movement tore at his wound, but he didn't fight her. The third mortar hit where they'd been sitting. The ravine offered shallow cover, a crack in the mountain, maybe 12 feet deep, running north toward higher ground, away from the valley, away from the convoy, away from any chance of being found by friendlies. She propped him against the wall. His vest had a medical kit, basic but better than nothing. She tore it open. Gauze, trauma dressing, morphine. No chest seal, but she could improvise. Why? He asked. Shut up. She cut away his shirt. The entry wound was bad, the exit wound worse. Sucking chest wound, textbook presentation. Air was leaking into his chest cavity, collapsing the lung. She had maybe 10 minutes before he went into respiratory failure. Emily tore open the gauze packaging, fashioned a crude occlusive dressing, taped it down on 3 sides, leaving one edge open for air to escape. It wouldn't save him, but it might buy him time. Why? He asked again. Because you were right. She pulled the dressing tight, heard him grunt. They'll kill both of us. 2 targets are harder than 1. You trust me? No. She checked his rifle. Dragunov SVD, older model but well-maintained. Loaded. She ejected the magazine, cleared the chamber, threw the rounds down the ravine. He watched her with those calculating eyes. Smart. I'm not stupid. Just desperate. Emily ignored him. She scanned the ravine exit. The mortars had stopped, but that meant repositioning. They'd have ground teams moving up within minutes. Maybe air support if they thought the target was valuable enough. The enemy soldier coughed, specks of blood on his lips. "My name is Rashid. I don't care." "You should. If I die, you have no leverage." "If you die, I have one less problem." "If I die," he said, breathing harder now, "you have no one to tell you about the ambush." Emily turned, studied his face, looking for the lie. He met her gaze without flinching. "What ambush?" "FOB Jackson." He coughed again, worse this time. The dressing was already soaking through. 3 days, maybe less. FOB Jackson was 70 clicks north, 200 American personnel, supply depot, communications hub, strategic asset. "You're lying." "Maybe." His lips pulled into something that might have been a smile. "But you need that radio working, and I need medical attention. We both need out of this mountain." The math shifted again. Emily made her decision the way Reynolds taught her. Not with emotion, not with hope, with cold inventory. She had 3 magazines, half a canteen, no comms, and 70 clicks of hostile territory between her and safety. Rashid had information of unknown value, combat training, and approximately 6 hours before infection or blood loss killed him. Together they had 2 rifles, combined ammunition, and the element of surprise. No one expected cooperation. "Can you walk?" she asked. "Do I have a choice?" "You can stay here and bleed out." He looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. "Help me up." She pulled him to his feet. He swayed, caught himself against the ravine wall. His face had gone gray under the dust and blood. But when he took a step, he didn't collapse. "Your leg," she said, noticing the way he favored his left side. "Broke it last month. Healed wrong." He took another step, gritting his teeth. "Been a long war." "Yeah." They moved north through the ravine. Slow progress. Every 20 yards, Emily stopped to scan for threats. Drones, foot patrols, airborne assets. The afternoon sun cooked them in the narrow space, turning the air into something you could chew. After 30 minutes, Rashid spoke. "Your special forces." "Recon." "Alone?" "Was. Bad luck." "Bad intel." She checked the ravine exit, saw nothing but empty mountainside. "Your convoy, what was it carrying?" "Same thing all convoys carry. Weapons, money, hope." "Hope's not a supply category." "In this war?" He laughed, then immediately regretted it, clutching his chest. "Hope's the only supply that matters." Emily didn't respond. They kept moving. The ravine opened onto a plateau. Exposed ground, no cover for 50 yards in any direction. Crossing it meant becoming visible to anyone with optics or altitude. "We wait for dark," Emily said. "I might not have that long." She looked at him. His dressing was soaked through, blood running down his side. She pulled out the morphine from his kit. "How much have you had?" "None." "Why?" "Need to stay sharp." He met her eyes. "So do you." He was right. Morphine would dull the pain but slow his reactions. And if they got into a firefight, she needed him functional, not sedated. "Save it for later," she said, pocketing the syringe. They found shade under an overhang. Emily rationed water, 2 sips each. Rashid's breathing had stabilized, but his color was still wrong. She changed his dressing, used the last of his gauze. The wound was clean enough, no foreign material. The bullet had passed through without fragmenting. Lucky, relatively speaking. "FOB Jackson," she said. "Tell me." "Why should I?" "Because if you die, the information dies with you. If you live, it's currency." Rashid considered this. His gaze drifted to the horizon, where heat shimmer made the mountains dance. 3 days, maybe 4. 50 fighters, coordinated assault. They've been planning it for months. Who's they? Does it matter? One label or another, Same weapons, same war. It matters to the people who'll die. Then tell your command, he looked at her. When you reach them. If I reach them. When? He shifted, wincing. You'll make it. You're too stubborn to die. You don't know me. I know soldiers, he closed his eyes. We're all the same, just different flags. Emily wanted to argue, wanted to tell him he was wrong, that there were sides, clear lines, reasons beyond survival. But the words stuck in her throat, because Reynolds had told her the same thing once, after a mission gone bad, after she'd held a dying Marine who kept asking why. There's no why, Reynolds had said. There's only what happens next. What happened next was the sun dropping behind the mountains, and in the gathering dark, the sound of helicopters moving south. They crossed the plateau at dusk. Emily moved point, rifle ready, scanning for movement. Rashid followed 10 paces back, using the Dragunov as a crutch. She'd given him 3 rounds. Enough for emergencies, not enough for betrayal. The helicopters had passed overhead 20 minutes ago. Black Hawks heading toward the valley. Someone had found the bodies. Someone was looking for answers. They'll sweep the area, Rashid said when they reached the far side. Standard search pattern. How long? Till dawn. Maybe longer if they bring tracking dogs. Dogs. Emily hadn't considered that. Her scent trail would be hours old, but traceable. And Rashid's blood had marked their path like breadcrumbs. We need to move faster, she said. I'm moving as fast as I can. She looked at him. He was shaking now. Adrenaline crash or infection, hard to tell. His lips had a blue tinge that meant oxygen debt. The chest wound wasn't fatal yet, but it was moving in that direction. There's a wadi 2 clicks north, she said, remembering the satellite imagery from Mission Brief. We can shelter there, clean water if we're lucky. And if we're not, then we die thirsty. Rashid laughed, a short bark that became a cough. You're funny. I'm practical. Same thing in war. They pushed north. The temperature dropped as night settled. Good for movement, bad for Rashid's condition. She could hear his teeth chattering. Shock symptoms. He needed heat, fluids, rest. He needed a hospital. What he had was Emily and a morphine syringe. The wadi appeared as a dark slash across the landscape, deeper than she'd expected, maybe 20 feet. The bottom held water, a thin stream, barely more than a trickle, but clear. Emily helped Rashid down. He collapsed against the bank, chest heaving. She filled the canteen, added purification tablets, waited the required 30 minutes while the iodine worked. Above them, stars emerged, billions of them, sharp and cold. No light pollution this far from civilization, just darkness and distance. I had a brother, Rashid said suddenly. Emily didn't respond, didn't want to hear it. Personal history created empathy, and empathy created hesitation. He died in Helmand, IED. Rashid stared at the water. He was carrying medical supplies, bandages, morphine, same things that might save me now. I'm sorry. Don't be. He knew the risks. Rashid looked at her. Same as you. Same as every soldier who walks these mountains. It's not the same. Why? Because you wear a different uniform? He shook his head. We're both doing what we think is right, both following orders, both trying to survive. You're defending a regime that, and you're defending an occupation that, he stopped, coughed. This conversation is old. We've been having it for 20 years. Emily handed him the canteen. He drank slowly, carefully. Some of the color returned to his face. F.O.B. Jackson, she said. Give me details. Timing, approach vectors. Not yet. You said, I said I'd tell you. I didn't say when. He returned the canteen. Get me to safety first, then we talk. That wasn't the deal. There is no deal. There's just 2 people trying not to die. He leaned back, closing his eyes. Wake me if anyone comes to kill us. Emily wanted to argue, wanted to press him. But he was right. Without leverage, information was his only insurance policy. She'd do the same in his position. She took first watch, sat with her back to the wadi wall, rifle across her knees, listening to the night. Wind through stone, water over rocks, Rashid's labored breathing, and somewhere in the distance, the sound of engines. The patrol found them at 0200. Emily woke Rashid with a hand over his mouth. His eyes snapped open, instantly alert. She pointed up. Voices. Farsi. 3, maybe 4 speakers. They were searching the wadi. Flashlight beams cut through the darkness, playing across the walls. Emily and Rashid pressed against the overhang. Shallow cover. If the patrol came down to water level, they'd be spotted. The voices grew closer. She heard radio chatter. Coordinates. Negative contact. Moving to next sector. The flashlight swept lower. Rashid's hand found hers in the dark. Not reassurance. Communication. He squeezed once. Get ready. She understood. If they were found, they'd have to fight. Close quarters. No mercy. Her finger found the trigger. A flashlight beam passed 6 inches from Rashid's boot, then stopped. Emily's breath caught. The beam held position. Someone had seen something. Shadow, movement, disturbance in the dust. The voice called out. A question. Repeated. Rashid squeezed her hand twice. Hold position. The flashlight moved on. The voices faded north, radio chatter receding. The patrol had missed them by inches in luck. Emily waited 5 full minutes before moving. When she was certain they were alone, she released Rashid's hand. That was close, she whispered. They'll be back. Standard search pattern, 2-hour intervals. Then we move before they return. She helped him up. He'd stiffened during the wait, and the first few steps were agony, but he pushed through, gritting his teeth, forcing his body to obey. They climbed out of the wadi and headed northwest, away from the patrol routes, toward rougher terrain where vehicles couldn't follow, toward FOB Jackson. Dawn broke hard and fast. One moment darkness, the next a line of fire across the eastern horizon. Emily found cover in a cluster of boulders and called a halt. We need to talk about the ambush, she said. Rashid lowered himself carefully to the ground. His dressing needed changing, but they'd run out of medical supplies. The wound was seeping again, blood mixing with sweat and dust. What do you want to know? He asked. Everything. Numbers, weapons, timing. I told you, 50 fighters, coordinated assault, 3 to 4 days. Where's the assault coming from? He pointed northeast. Through the passes. They'll hit the supply route first, cut off reinforcements, then the base itself. What about air support? They have man-pads, Chinese. New shipment arrived last week. Emily's stomach dropped. Man-portable air defense systems. FOB Jackson's air support would be flying into a kill zone. You're sure about this? I helped plan it, he met her eyes, before you shot me. The admission hung between them. Emily had known, abstractly, that Rashid was enemy leadership, but hearing him confirm active participation in planning an attack that would kill Americans, shifted something inside her. Her hand drifted toward her sidearm. Go ahead, Rashid said quietly. If it makes you feel better. Why tell me? Because I don't want to die for nothing. He leaned back, closing his eyes. 73 fighters have died in the last 6 months. Good men, brave men. Died holding worthless pieces of ground that'll be lost next month anyway. So you're having doubts. I'm having reality. He opened his eyes. This war doesn't end. Not for us. Not for you. It just grinds everyone down until there's nothing left. Then why keep fighting? Because stopping means admitting we wasted all those lives for nothing. He smiled, bitter. Pride. It's the same reason you're helping me right now. I'm helping you because you can't let me die without extracting intelligence first. Because Reynolds taught you never to waste an asset. Because you're a good soldier. He coughed. But mostly because you're not sure if I'm telling the truth about FOB Jackson, and you need me alive to find out. Emily wanted to deny it, but every word was accurate. Get some rest, she said. We move again in 2 hours. She took watch position, scanning the horizon for threats. The sun climbed higher, turning the landscape into hammered brass. Heat waves distorted distance. Every shadow could be a person. Every rock could be cover for an ambush. Behind her, Rashid's breathing had evened out. Asleep or unconscious, hard to tell. She thought about futures. In one future, she reached FOB Jackson with Rashid. He provided intel. The ambush was thwarted, lives saved, mission success. In another future, Rashid died in these mountains. His information died with him. The ambush proceeded, body bags and folded flags. In a third future, the one she tried not to think about, Rashid was lying. The ambush didn't exist, and she'd compromised everything for nothing. Reynolds had taught her to see 3 moves ahead, but he'd never taught her what to do when all 3 moves led to checkmate. They moved through the mountains like ghosts with bleeding feet. 48 hours after the wadi, 60 clicks from where Emily had fired the shot that changed everything. Rashid's wound had stopped bleeding but started smelling. That sweet rot scent that meant infection was setting in. He needed antibiotics. He needed surgery. He needed things Emily couldn't provide with a half-empty canteen and expired iodine tablets. What he had was willpower and Emily's shoulder. Tell me about Reynolds, Rashid said as they navigated a scree slope. No. We're going to die together. Might as well know who taught you to be so stubborn. Emily didn't answer. Talking wasted energy. Energy was currency now, same as ammunition and water. But Rashid kept talking anyway. He was special forces, yes? The way you move, the way you think 3 steps ahead, that's not regular army training. He was my instructor at Fort Benning. And more than that. Emily stopped, turned. What makes you say that? Because you quote him like scripture. Because every decision you make, you're asking yourself what he would do. Rashid leaned against a boulder, breathing hard. He was your mentor, the one who made you believe in something bigger than survival. He taught me to stay alive. No, he taught you to stay human while staying alive. There's a difference. Rashid wiped blood from his mouth. I had a mentor too, Kareem. He taught me the same thing, before a drone strike turned him into vapor. Emily resumed walking, didn't want to hear it, didn't want to acknowledge the parallel. Where is Reynolds now? Rashid asked. Retired, Virginia, fishing. Does he know you're here? Nobody knows I'm here. The words came out harder than she intended. I was supposed to check in 36 hours ago. By now I'm listed as MIA, maybe KIA. Your people will look for you, if they can spare the resources. She helped him over a gap in the rocks. This isn't the only operation in country. I'm one soldier. The war's bigger than me. The war's bigger than all of us. Rashid stumbled, caught himself. That's the problem. They reached a ridgeline overlooking a narrow valley. Through the afternoon haze, Emily spotted movement. A convoy, 5 vehicles, moving south on the dirt road. Taliban? She asked. Rashid studied the vehicles. Probably, or smugglers. Hard to tell the difference anymore. We need to cross that valley before dark. They'll see us. Only if we cross where they're looking. Emily scanned the terrain, found a route. Longer, harder, but out of sight lines. We go east, use the ravine system. That adds 2 hours. You have somewhere else to be? Rashid laughed, which turned into a cough. He spat blood. Lead on. The ravine was a mistake. Emily realized it 30 minutes in when the walls narrowed to shoulder width and the ground turned soft. Flash flood channel. The walls were smooth, polished by water in time. No handholds. No escape routes if water came. We need to turn back, she said. Can't. Rashid pointed behind them. Walls closed up. We go forward or we wait. Waiting meant exposure. The sun was dropping, but the ravine would hold heat like an oven. Rashid was already dehydrated. Another hour in this trap could kill him. Forward then. They pushed deeper. The ravine twisted like a snake's spine. Every turn revealed more of the same. Smooth walls, soft ground, no exits. Emily's tactical sense screamed. This was exactly the kind of terrain where bad things happened. Behind them, a sound, distant but distinct. Thunder. Move, Emily said. They stumbled forward. The ravine widened slightly, enough for them to walk side by side. The sound grew louder. Not thunder. Water. Flash flood. Run! Emily grabbed Rashid's arm, hauled him forward. His leg gave out. She caught him, kept him upright, pushed him ahead of her. The water hit them like a freight train. Cold, fast, powerful enough to sweep them off their feet. Emily slammed into the wall, felt ribs crack, lost her grip on Rashid. The current tumbled her forward, spinning her, slamming her against stone. Her rifle torn from her hands, her pack ripped away. 30 seconds that felt like 30 minutes. Then the ravine opened into a wider channel and the water spread out, slowed, became survivable. Emily found footing, stood, gasped air that tasted like mud and fear. Rashid! No answer. She waded downstream, scanning the banks. Found him 50 yards ahead, tangled in brush, face down in 2 inches of water. She ran, flipped him over. His lips were blue, not breathing. Emily tilted his head back, checked his airway. Clear. Started compressions. Counted. 30 compressions, 2 breaths. Repeated. Repeated. Come on, Reynolds' voice in her head. Dead people don't give intelligence. Keep them alive. She pushed harder. Felt another rib crack under her hands. Didn't care. Rashid convulsed, coughed. Water poured from his mouth. He gasped, choked, gasped again. Emily rolled him onto his side. Let him breathe. Let him live. When his breathing steadied, she checked his chest wound. The dressing had washed away. The wound was open, exposed, filling with dirty water. Infection was now guaranteed. I've got nothing left to treat this, she said. Rashid's eyes focused on her. Then I die clean. You're not dying. You can't order me to live. Watch me. She tore strips from her own shirt, fashioned a crude dressing. It wouldn't stop infection, but it would keep dirt out of the wound. Maybe buy him another day. My rifle, she said, looking around. Did you see? Gone. Rashid pointed to the water. Everything's gone. Emily inventoried what remained. Her sidearm, still holstered. Rashid's Dragunov, somehow still slung across his back. Her combat knife, his medical kit, empty now. No food. No water purification. No radio. They had weapons and will. That was the inventory. FOB Jackson is 40 clicks north, she said. We can make it in 2 days if we push. I can't push. Then I'll carry you. Why? Rashid's eyes searched her face. Why do you keep saving me? Because you have information I need. That's not why. Emily didn't answer, didn't want to examine the question too closely. She stood, offered her hand. We move now or we die here. Choose. Rashid took her hand. Night came hard and fast. They'd made maybe 3 clicks since the flood. Rashid was fading. Emily could see it in his eyes, that glassy look that meant the body was starting to shut down. Triage decisions happening at the cellular level. Save the brain, sacrifice the extremities. She found shelter under an overhang. Not much, but enough to block wind. She laid out Rashid's vest as a blanket, thin protection against the cold. Tell me the details, she said. FOB Jackson. I need everything. Why now? Because if you die tonight, the information dies with you. And I'll have carried you 40 clicks for nothing. Rashid's laugh was barely a whisper. Always practical. Always. He closed his eyes. For a moment she thought he'd passed out. Then he spoke, each word measured and deliberate. The attack comes in 3 waves. First wave, mortars and rockets, 30 minutes of sustained fire, targeting comms, vehicles, fuel depot, not meant to breach, meant to blind and confuse. Emily listened, memorized. No way to write it down. Second wave, sappers, 10 fighters with explosive vests. They hit the perimeter at 4 points, create breaches, draw defenders to the walls. That's a diversion. Yes, the real assault is wave 3. 20 fighters with RPGs and machine guns. They pour through the breaches while defenders are still reacting to the sappers. It's not about holding ground. It's about maximum casualties in minimum time. When? 72 hours from now, give or take. He opened his eyes. 0400, when the guards are tired and the camp is dark. Emily ran the numbers. 72 hours from when? From the convoy? From the shooting? She'd lost track of time. What's today, she asked. Thursday, I think. Rashid shifted, wincing. Does it matter? It mattered. If she could reach FOB Jackson in 2 days, she'd arrive just hours before the attack. No time for proper defense preparation. No time to call in reinforcements. The man pads, she said. Where are they positioned? North Ridge, overlooks the airstrip. 2 teams, 4 missiles each. And if air support is grounded, how does FOB Jackson get reinforcements? They don't. Rashid smiled, grim. That's the point. Hold them in place. Bleed them. Make the base too expensive to maintain. Force withdrawal. That's not going to happen. No? Your army is tired. Your people back home are tired. This war has been going 20 years. How many more are you willing to fight? Emily didn't answer. She'd asked herself the same question, had seen the exhaustion in every soldier's eyes, the weight of endless deployments, friends who'd rotated through Afghanistan 3, 4, 5 times, friends who'd stopped coming back. Reynolds told me something once, she said. He said the war would end when both sides got tired of counting bodies. I think he was wrong. I think it ends when we run out of reasons to keep fighting. And have you? Run out of reasons? I'm still here. That's not an answer. It's the only answer I have. They sat in silence. The mountains around them held the darkness like a physical thing. No moon, no stars, just Emily and Rashid in the space between heartbeats. I have a daughter, Rashid said suddenly. 7 years old. She lives with her mother in Kabul. She doesn't know what I do. Thinks I'm a shopkeeper. Don't, Emily said. Don't what? Don't make this personal. Don't make me see you as human. Why not? I am human. Because humans are harder to kill. She looked at him. And I might still have to kill you. I know. Rashid closed his eyes again. But you should know who you're killing. That's the difference between murder and war. In war, we tell ourselves the enemy isn't real, just a target, just a number. But every number has a name. Every name has a story. What's your daughter's name? Amira, it means princess. Emily thought about the faces she'd seen through her scope. 43 confirmed kills. 43 fathers, brothers, sons. 43 stories she'd never know. Reynolds was right, she said quietly. War is just counting bodies, and I've stopped counting. Rashid didn't respond. His breathing had changed, shallow and irregular. Fever. The infection was spreading faster than she'd hoped. She pressed her hand to his forehead. Hot. Too hot. Stay with me, she said, not planning to leave. I need you to get to FOB Jackson. I need you to tell them about the attack. They won't believe me. They will if I'm with you. And if I die, then I'll tell them myself. She checked his wound. The crude dressing was soaked through. But you're not going to die. I've carried you this far. I'm not stopping now. Why do you care? Emily didn't answer immediately. Didn't know how to explain that somewhere between the ravine and the flood, between the patrol and the confession, Rashid had stopped being a target and started being something else. Not a friend, not an ally, but not an enemy either. A complication, a responsibility, a problem she couldn't solve with a bullet. Because Reynolds taught me that every soldier deserves a chance to make it home, she finally said, even the ones on the wrong side. There are no sides, just survivors and casualties. Then let's be survivors. Rashid's hand found hers in the dark, squeezed once. Deal. Dawn found them still alive. Barely. Rashid's fever had broken sometime during the night, but he'd lost more blood. The wound was infected. Emily could see red streaks radiating from the injury. Sepsis. Maybe days away. Maybe hours. They had 30 clicks to FOB Jackson. 30 clicks through mountain passes in enemy territory, with no food, no water purification, and a dying man. The math was ugly. Can you walk? Emily asked. Rashid opened his eyes. They were clearer than last night. Fever down didn't mean fever gone. Define walk. Can you move? If you define move broadly enough, yes. She helped him up. He swayed but stayed vertical. Progress. They started north. Slow going. Every 100 meters, Emily stopped to scan for threats. Patrols, drones, vehicles. The mountains were supposed to be empty, but empty was relative. Taliban owned these passes. They knew every rock, every ridge, every kill zone. Emily and Rashid were trespassers in someone else's war. Around midday, they found a stream. Clean water, cold and fast. Emily filled the canteen, rationed it carefully. 2 sips each, saved the rest. I need to tell you something, Rashid said as they rested, about FOB Jackson. What? The intelligence I gave you, it's real, but it's not complete. Emily's hand moved to her sidearm. Explain. The attack I described, that's the diversion. The real objective is different. You lied. I withheld. He met her eyes. There's a difference. Not from where I'm sitting. Listen. He leaned forward, urgent despite the pain. FOB Jackson has a detention facility. 20 high-value prisoners. Taliban leadership. The attack isn't about the base. It's about freeing those prisoners. Emily processed this. The tactical picture shifted. A prisoner rescue changed everything. Timing, approach vectors, objectives. Why tell me this now? Because we're close enough that you can't afford to leave me behind. And because if I die, you need to know the whole truth. How do I know this is the whole truth? You don't. Rashid coughed, red foam on his lips. But ask yourself, would I lie when I'm this close to death? What would I gain? Confusion, misdirection, buying time for the real attack. If I wanted to do that, I'd have stayed quiet. He wiped his mouth. I'm telling you because those prisoners include 3 men planning something worse than a base assault. Much worse. How much worse? Kabul, civilian targets, schools, hospitals, mosques. They want spectacular casualties. They want to prove the government can't protect anyone. Emily felt cold despite the sun. When? 2 weeks after the base assault. They need those men free to coordinate it. You're sure about this? I helped plan this too, before I started having doubts. He looked at her. Before I realized counting bodies is a game no one wins. Emily stood, paced, tried to think through the implications. If Rashid was telling the truth, FOB Jackson wasn't just about American casualties. It was about preventing mass murder in Kabul. Hundreds of civilians, maybe thousands. If he was lying, she was being played, and she'd compromised her mission for nothing. Why should I believe you? She asked. Because you've watched me for 3 days. You've seen me nearly die. You've saved my life twice. Rashid struggled to his feet. And because you know I have nothing left to lie for. My war is over. I just want to make sure it ends with fewer bodies than it started with. Emily studied his face. looking for the tell, the micro-expression that would reveal deception. She'd been trained to spot liars. Reynolds had drilled her for hours on reading people. She saw nothing but exhaustion in truth. "If you're lying," she said quietly, "I will kill you." Slowly. "If I'm lying, I deserve it." They moved north. Faster now. The urgency had shifted. Not just warning about an attack, preventing a massacre. 20 clicks to go. The ambush came at 1600, just as Emily's tactical sense had been screaming it would. They'd entered a narrow pass, walls rising 60 feet on either side. Perfect kill zone. She tried to find an alternate route, but the mountains offered no choices. Through the pass or add 12 hours to the journey. Rashid couldn't afford 12 hours. "Stay close," she'd said as they entered. "Watch the ridge lines." They'd made it halfway through when the shooting started. Automatic fire from 3 positions. Interlocking fields of fire. Professional setup. Not militia, not opportunistic bandits. This was a prepared ambush. Emily dragged Rashid behind a boulder. Rounds chewed the stone above their heads. She counted shooters by muzzle flashes. 3, maybe 4. Rifles, maybe a machine gun. Positioned high, dug in. "They knew we were coming," she said. "Impossible. They're here, aren't they?" Rashid checked the Dragunov. 3 rounds left. Emily had her sidearm. 17 rounds, against 4 shooters with high ground and unlimited ammunition. The math was very ugly. "We can't stay here," Rashid said. "They'll flank us. We can't advance. They'll cut us apart." "Then we fight." Emily looked at him. Fever-bright eyes, infected wound, barely able to stand, and he wanted to fight. "You're insane," she said. "Probably," he chambered around, "but I'm also a very good shot. You have 3 bullets. Then I better not miss." The shooting paused. Reload time or repositioning. Emily used the silence to scan the terrain, found a route. Narrow gap between 2 boulders, led to higher ground. Flanking position. Risky. Exposed. Probably suicide. "Cover me," she said. "With 3 bullets? Make them count." She moved before Rashid could argue, sprinted for the gap, heard him fire behind her. 1 shot. A scream from the ridgeline. 1 shooter down. Emily reached the gap, squeezed through. Rounds snapped past her head. She kept moving, using momentum and desperation. Behind her, another shot from Rashid. Another scream. 2 down. 1 bullet left. Emily climbed, hand over hand, using cracks in the stone for purchase. Her ribs screamed. She ignored them. Reached a ledge. Saw the 3rd shooter 20 feet away, focused on Rashid's position. She raised her sidearm. Double tap. Center mass. He dropped. The 4th shooter spun toward her. Emily fired first. 3 rounds. He staggered backward, fell, slid down the slope in a cloud of dust. Silence. Emily stayed frozen, weapon raised, scanning for more threats. Nothing moved. Nothing breathed except her and the wind. She climbed down, found Rashid still behind the boulder. Dragunov aimed at empty air. "You okay?" she asked. "Define okay." He lowered the rifle. "I'm still breathing. Counts for something." Emily checked the bodies, all dead. She took their ammunition, their water, their medical supplies. War made you practical. Dead men didn't need antibiotics. She found something else. A radio, still working, set to an encrypted frequency. "This isn't random," she said, showing Rashid. "This was coordinated. Someone knew we were here. Patrol reports, probably. We've been spotted a dozen times. Just lucky we weren't caught before now." "No." Emily examined the radio. Military-grade encryption. Chinese manufacture. "This is too sophisticated for patrol response. Someone gave them our route, our timing." "Who?" "That's the question." She pocketed the radio. Might be useful if she could crack the encryption. Might be worthless. But information was currency. They moved through the pass, faster now. The ambush had cost them 20 minutes. Every minute was blood Rashid couldn't afford to lose. Two shooters with 3 bullets, Rashid said as they walked. Not bad. Not good either. We should be dead. Should be is different than are. He stumbled, caught himself. I'm starting to think we're harder to kill than either of us expected. Don't get cocky. Mountains are listening. Let them listen. We've got a story worth hearing. Emily almost smiled. Almost. But smiling was for people who'd survived, and they hadn't survived yet. 15 clicks to FOB Jackson. They walked through the night. No choice. Rashid was fading fast. The antibiotics from the dead fighters were helping, but not enough. The infection had spread too far. He needed intravenous antibiotics, surgery, intensive care. He needed things that existed 15 clicks away. Tell me about Reynolds, Rashid said around midnight, talking to stay conscious. What made him special? Emily adjusted her grip on his arm. She was half carrying him now. He saw people, not soldiers, treated us like we mattered. That's rare in war. That's rare anywhere. She helped him over a rise. He told me once that the hardest part of being a leader wasn't making tactical decisions. It was living with them afterward. Smart man. He carried a notebook, wrote down the name of every soldier he lost. Dozens of them. He said if he forgot their names, he'd forget why he was fighting. Do you do that? Write down names? Emily thought about the 43 faces in her scope. No, I can't forget them even if I try. Maybe that's worse. Maybe. They walked in silence. The mountains around them were sharp edges in deeper shadows. No moon tonight. Navigation by starlight in memory. Around 0200, Rashid collapsed. Emily caught him, lowered him gently. His pulse was thready, breathing shallow. Unconscious, not sleeping. Body shutting down non-essential systems to preserve the core. Stay with me, she said, knowing he couldn't hear. We're close. So damn close. She checked the radio she'd taken from the ambush site. Still encrypted, still useless. But she cycled through frequencies anyway, hoping for something, anything. Static on most channels. Then, on frequency 117.5, she heard it. Faint, but clear. American voices. Patrol Alpha 6 returning to base. Copy that, Alpha 6, you're clear. FOB Jackson. Had to be. Within radio range. Maybe 10 clicks, maybe less. Emily keyed the mic. Any station, this is Sierra 26, emergency traffic. How copy? Static. She tried again. Any station, Sierra 26 requesting immediate medevac. 1 urgent surgical. Grid coordinates. Her radio died. Battery finally giving up. Emily wanted to scream, wanted to throw the useless piece of equipment into the darkness, wanted to quit. Instead, she picked up Rashid and kept walking. Dawn found them on a ridge overlooking a valley, and in that valley, like a mirage made real, was FOB Jackson. Concrete barriers, guard towers, the geometric order of a military installation. Helicopters on the airstrip, vehicles moving between buildings, lights, life, safety, 10 clicks away. Emily shook Rashid awake. Look. His eyes opened, focused with difficulty. Saw the base. Something like hope crossed his face. We made it, he whispered. Almost. She helped him sit up. Can you walk? Can you carry me? If I have to. She didn't have to. Rashid found reserves she didn't think existed. Adrenaline, maybe, or pure stubborn will. He stood, used the Dragonov as a crutch, took a step, then another. They descended the ridge, slow going, every step measured, every meter earned. Around 800, they hit the perimeter road. 6 clicks from the main gate, close enough to see guard towers, close enough to be seen. Emily fashioned a white flag from her shirt, improvised, obvious, desperate. She waved it as they approached. American soldier, She shouted, "Friendly! Hold fire!" Movement in the guard tower. A spotlight snapped on, found them. Blinding. She kept the flag raised. "Identify yourself." A voice over loudspeaker. Young. Nervous. "Sergeant Emily Carter, U.S. Army. Serial number." She rattled off her ID. "I have critical intelligence and one wounded detainee." "What unit?" "Recon element attached to." She gave the classified designation. "I've been MIA for 6 days." Silence. The spotlight didn't move. Then the loudspeaker again. "Maintain position. Do not advance. We're sending a verification team." Emily and Rashid waited. Every second felt like an hour. She watched Rashid. His breathing had gotten worse. Labored. Gurgling. The chest wound was filling with fluid. "Stay alive," she said. "5 more minutes. Just 5 more minutes." "I'm trying." "Try harder." A vehicle approached. MRAP, armored and cautious. It stopped 50 yards away. Soldiers dismounted, weapons raised, taking covered positions. Standard procedure for unknown contacts. Emily had done this herself 100 times. She knew the protocol. "Sergeant Carter." Different voice now. Officer by the tone. "Step away from the detainee." "Hands where we can see them." Emily raised her hands, still holding the white flag. "He's wounded. He needs immediate medical attention." "Step away from the detainee." She looked at Rashid. His eyes met hers. Understanding passed between them. "You did good," he said quietly. "We did good. Now comes the hard part." "What's that?" "Convincing them I'm not the enemy." Emily stepped away. Soldiers rushed forward, surrounded Rashid, secured him with flex cuffs. 2 medics checked his wound, barked orders. Stretcher, IV, emergency transport. Other soldiers surrounded Emily. Weapons raised but not aimed. Questions coming fast. "How long have you been MIA? What happened to your unit? How did you acquire the detainee?" Emily answered mechanically, mind elsewhere, watching the medics load Rashid into the MRAP, watching the vehicle speed toward the base, watching him disappear. "Sergeant Carter." The officer stepped closer, captain's bars, hard eyes. "I need you to focus." "The detainee, how did you acquire him?" "I shot him. Then I saved him. Then we walked 80 clicks together because he has intelligence about an imminent attack on this base." "What kind of attack?" "The kind that kills everyone here." Emily met the captain's eyes. "And I need to speak to your commanding officer immediately, because we have less than 24 hours to stop it." The debriefing room was concrete and cold. Emily sat across from Major Davis, FOB Jackson's intelligence officer. Gray hair, hard face, eyes that had seen too many wars. Between them, a digital recorder and a map of the region. "From the beginning," Davis said, "everything." Emily told the story. The surveillance mission, the shot, the drone, the decision to save Rashid instead of confirming the kill, the journey through mountains, the flood, the ambush, the intelligence about the 3-wave attack. Davis listened without interrupting, made notes, asked clarifying questions. When Emily finished, he leaned back. "That's quite a story." "It's not a story, it's a report." "The detainee, Rashid, you trust his intelligence?" "I trust that he believes it's true." "That's not the same thing." "No, but it's something." Emily leaned forward. "He had multiple chances to kill me. He didn't. He had multiple chances to escape. He didn't. He gave me tactical intelligence that got us through enemy territory alive. Or he played you. Fed you information to get inside our perimeter. Classic infiltration tactic." "He's dying. Sepsis. Your medics give him maybe 48 hours even with treatment, which makes him the perfect suicide asset." Davis tapped the map. "This attack he described, 3 waves, prisoner rescue, it's textbook, maybe too textbook." "Meaning?" "Meaning it could be disinformation. Get us focused on defending against one threat while the real attack comes from a different vector. Emily wanted to argue, wanted to defend Rashid, wanted to believe the last 6 days meant something. But Davis was right. She'd been trained to think the same way. Trust, but verify. Assume deception until proven otherwise. What about the prisoner facility? She asked. The high-value detainees Rashid mentioned. We have 18 prisoners currently, mix of Taliban leadership and foreign fighters. If someone wanted to free them, this base would be the target. So his intelligence aligns with reality. Or he's telling us what we already know to establish credibility. Emily felt exhaustion crash over her. 6 days of adrenaline and fear burning off, leaving only emptiness. What do you want me to say, sir? That I made a mistake? That I should have left him to die? I want you to be honest about what he is. He's not your friend. He's not your ally. He's an enemy combatant who might be feeding you disinformation. And if he's not, if the attack is real and we ignore it, then a lot of people die. Davis stood. Which is why we're taking his intelligence seriously. Increase patrols, reinforce perimeter, air assets on standby. But we're also assuming he's lying until proven otherwise. I want to talk to him. Negative. He'll respond to me. We've established rapport. That's exactly why you can't talk to him. Davis opened the door. You're too close. You've developed Stockholm Syndrome, or whatever the reverse is called. You see him as human, which compromises your judgment. I see everyone as human, sir. That's not a flaw. In intelligence work it is. Davis gestured to the hallway. Get checked by medical. Get some food. Get some sleep. We'll handle the detainee. Emily didn't move. When's the last time you talked to someone you were supposed to kill? Excuse me? Enemy combatant, face to face, not through a scope, not through a screen. Actually talked to them, saw them as a person. Davis's expression hardened. That's not relevant. It's completely relevant, because that's what I've been doing for 6 days. And you know what I learned? We're fighting people who think they're the good guys, just like us. They have families. They have reasons. They're not monsters. They kill Americans. We kill them. Emily stood. The math works both ways, sir. Watch yourself, Sergeant. I am watching myself. I'm watching myself try to prevent a massacre based on intelligence from someone who had every reason to let me die, but chose not to. She moved toward the door. If that's a mistake, I'll live with it, but I won't live with ignoring him and watching this base burn. She walked out before Davis could respond. Emily found the medical facility after asking 3 different soldiers for directions. The base was smaller than she'd expected, maybe 200 personnel. Tight quarters, everyone knew everyone. An attack here would be personal. The medical facility was a converted shipping container, air-conditioned, well-equipped, cramped. 2 doctors, 3 nurses, 10 beds. Rashid occupied one of those beds. He looked worse under fluorescent lights. Gray skin, sunken eyes, 4 lines running into both arms. Monitor beeping his vitals. Alive, but barely. A guard stood outside. Young private, rifle slung, bored expression. I need to see him, Emily said. No visitors, Major's orders. I'm not a visitor, I'm his arresting officer. You're not listed on the access roster. Emily leaned closer. That man in there has intelligence that could save this entire base. And he'll only talk to me, so you can check your roster, or you can explain to the Major why critical intelligence was lost because a private was following outdated paperwork. The guard hesitated, looked at Rashid through the door window, looked at Emily. 5 minutes, he said. Emily entered. The nurse looked up, started to protest. Emily showed her ID, used her best command voice. Official intelligence gathering, 5 minutes. The nurse left, unhappy but compliant. Emily pulled a chair next to Rashid's bed. His eyes opened. You made it, he said, voice weak but clear. We made it. They believe you? Not yet. They think you're running a disinformation operation. Smart. I'd think the same. He coughed, winced. How much time do I have? The doctors say 2 days, maybe 3. I meant until the attack. Emily checked her watch. 20 hours, give or take. Then we don't have time for doubt. Rashid tried to sit up, failed. I need to tell them everything. Troop positions, weapon caches, communications protocols, everything I know. They won't believe you. Then make them believe. He grabbed her hand. Weak grip, but urgent. Those 3 prisoners, the ones planning the Kabul attack, their names are Mahmoud al-Rashid, Tariq Hassan, and Omar al-Din. Find them in your database. Check their files. You'll see I'm telling the truth. How do you know those names? Because I worked with them. Before I realized what they were planning, his eyes held hers. Before I realized that killing Americans wouldn't end this war, it would just create more killing, more bodies, more daughters without fathers. Amira, Emily said. Yes, my daughter. He smiled, sad and tired. I want her to grow up in a world with fewer wars, even if I have to betray my own side to make that happen. Emily wanted to believe him. Everything in her wanted to believe that the last 6 days meant something, that Rashid was genuine, that redemption was possible even in war. But Davis was right. Trust, but verify. I'll check those names, she said. If you're telling the truth, I'll make them listen. And if I'm lying, then I was wrong about you. Would that change anything? What we went through? Emily thought about the ravine, the flood, the ambush, thought about carrying him through mountains, thought about the conversations that turned enemies into something else. No, she said finally, it wouldn't change that we survived together. But it would mean those men die because I trusted the wrong person. Then verify fast. Rashid's grip weakened. Because whether I live or die, that attack is coming, and a lot of people are counting on you to stop it. Emily stood. Don't die while I'm gone. I'll try. She left the medical facility. The guard watched her go, suspicious but silent. 20 hours until the attack. 19 hours and 55 minutes to convince command that a dying Taliban fighter was telling the truth. The math was impossible. She'd worked with worse odds. Emily spent 3 hours in the intelligence office, cross-referencing names against databases. Mahmoud al-Rashid, Tariq Hassan, Omar al-Din. All 3 were in the system. All 3 were detained at FOB Jackson. And all 3 had links to previous mass casualty attacks in Kabul. The files painted a picture. Sophisticated operators, urban warfare specialists, bomb makers with body counts in the hundreds, men who didn't just fight soldiers, they targeted markets, schools, weddings, soft targets for maximum terror. Major Davis stood behind her, reading over her shoulder. This doesn't prove anything. It proves Rashid knows who's here. That's not public information. He could have been briefed before deployment, standard intel for any Taliban operation targeting this base. Or he's telling the truth. Emily pulled up another file. Look at this. Omar al-Din, arrested 14 months ago. Rashid claims he worked with him. The timeline matches. Correlation isn't causation. No, but it's something. She turned to face Davis. You've increased security protocols based on his intelligence. You're taking it seriously enough to prepare. Why not take it seriously enough to believe him? Davis was quiet for a moment. Outside, the sun was setting. 18 hours until 0400. 18 hours until Rashid's predicted attack time. I'm preparing for an attack because we always prepare for attacks, Davis finally said. This base is a target every day of the week. Rashid's intel gives us specifics, which helps. But that doesn't make him trustworthy. What would make him trustworthy? Proof. Intercepted communications. Surveillance confirming troop movements. Something beyond the word of a man who has every reason to lie. Emily stood. Then let me get that proof. How? Let me interrogate him properly. Not 5 minutes with a guard watching. Real interrogation. Let me press him on details. If he's lying, I'll catch it. You're too close to him. I'm the only one who can get the truth. She met Davis's eyes. He trusts me. That's an intelligence asset you can't afford to waste. Davis considered this. The calculation was visible on his face. Risk versus reward. Protocol versus pragmatism. You have 6 hours, he said. Get me something actionable, or I'm locking both of you down until this is over. Understood, sir. Emily left before he could change his mind. The medical facility at night was quieter, fewer staff, lower lights. The guard outside Rashid's room was different, older, sergeant stripes, harder to convince. Emily showed her authorization from Davis. The sergeant scanned it, nodded, stepped aside. Rashid was awake when she entered. The monitors showed slightly better vitals. The antibiotics were working, buying him time he probably wouldn't live to use. Back so soon? He said. I need details. Everything you know about the attack. Times, positions, call signs, backup plans. Everything. I already told you. Tell me again, differently. Prove to me you're not lying. Rashid studied her face. They don't believe me. No, they think you're a plant. Disinformation to make us look the wrong direction. And you? What do you think? Emily pulled up a chair. I think you kept me alive for 6 days when you could have let me die. I think you gave me intelligence that's verifiable. But I also think you're smart enough to mix truth with lies. So I need you to give me something that proves you're not playing me. Like what? Radio frequencies, encryption protocols, names of unit commanders, something specific enough that we can verify before the attack. Rashid closed his eyes. When he spoke, his voice was measured, deliberate. Primary communications frequency, 147.3 megahertz. Secondary backup, 89.7 megahertz. Both use rolling encryption with daily key changes. Today's authentication code is Redstorm 7. Emily wrote this down. How do I verify this? Monitor those frequencies. You'll hear chatter, preparations for movement. They won't use explicit language, but you'll hear patterns, code words. What code words? Shepherd means go. Wolf means abort. Flock refers to the prisoner facility. He opened his eyes. If you hear, Shepherd calls the flock at dawn, that's the attack order. Emily stood. I'll check this. If it's real, it's real. Rashid coughed. But there's something else you need to know. What? The assault team. Their commander is named Khalil, my cousin. Emily sat back down. Your cousin? Yes, we grew up together, trained together, fought together. Rashid's voice dropped. If you stop this attack, there's a good chance you'll kill him. Why tell me this? Because you deserve to know who you're asking me to betray. He looked at her. And because I need you to understand that I'm not doing this lightly. I'm choosing your side over my family, over everything I've believed for 20 years. Why? Because Khalil is a good man following bad orders. And those 3 prisoners, Mahmoud, Tariq, Omar, they're monsters using good men to do evil things. Rashid's hands clenched into fists. I'm done being used. I'm done pretending that killing Americans will somehow make Afghanistan better. It won't. It'll just make more graves. Emily wanted to say something, some acknowledgement of the choice he was making, the weight he was carrying, but sympathy was a luxury neither of them could afford. If I stop this attack, she said quietly, and your cousin dies, that's on you. You know that, right? Yes. And you can live with that? No, Rashid smiled bitter. But I can die with it, which is probably all I've got left anyway. Emily left without another word, couldn't trust herself to stay longer, couldn't risk the empathy that was already making her doubt everything. She found Major Davis in the communications room. handed him the frequencies and code words. "Monitor these," she said. "If Rashid's telling the truth, you'll hear confirmation within the hour." Davis took the paper, read it. "And if we don't, then I was wrong, and you can do whatever you want with both of us." They heard Shepard at 2300 hours. Emily was in the communications room when the intercepted chatter came through. Static and broken Pashto, but clear enough. The word Shepard repeated 3 times, followed by coordinates that matched FOB Jackson's location. Davis listened to the recording twice. He was telling the truth about the attack. We still don't know if he's telling the truth about everything else. It's enough. Davis turned to his communications officer. "Send alert condition red. All personnel to defensive positions. Get the quick reaction force spun up. I want air assets overhead by 0200. Orders flowed. The base transformed. Soldiers running to positions. Lights going dark. Heavy weapons being positioned on the walls. The choreography of impending combat. Emily felt it in her gut. The electric charge of pre-battle. The knowledge that in a few hours, people would die. Maybe her. Maybe everyone. "What about Rashid?" she asked. "What about him? If the attack succeeds, he's a target. They're coming for the prisoners. He's in the medical facility, which is adjacent to the detention block. He's a prisoner too. If they reach him, they'll free him." "No," Emily shook her head. "They'll execute him. He betrayed them. They know it or they'll figure it out. Either way, he's dead if they get through." Davis looked at her. "You want to move him?" "I want to protect him. He's an enemy combatant who gave us intelligence under duress. The Geneva Convention doesn't require us to." "I'm not talking about the Geneva Convention. I'm talking about honoring the deal we made." Emily's voice hardened. "He kept me alive. He gave us intelligence. He's dying because he saved my life. The least we can do is make sure he doesn't die from a bullet meant as punishment for helping us." Davis considered this. Outside, the sound of helicopters spooling up. Apache gunships by the rotor signature. "Fine," he said. "Move him to the command bunker. Keep him under guard. But if this goes sideways, he's your responsibility." "Understood." Emily ran to the medical facility, found 2 corpsmen preparing to evacuate critical patients. "I need Rashid moved to the command bunker," she said. "On whose authority?" "Major Davis. He's a high-value intelligence asset. If the base is breached, we can't lose him." The corpsmen didn't argue. They'd heard the alert, knew what was coming. They unhooked Rashid's monitors, transferred his IVs to portable bags, loaded him onto a stretcher. Rashid's eyes found Emily as they carried him out. "It's happening." "Yes." "My cousin." "Don't. I don't want to know." She walked alongside the stretcher. "You made your choice. Now you live with it. Or die with it. That too." They reached the command bunker, a reinforced concrete structure half buried in the center of the base. Communications hub. Command and control. Last stand position if everything else fell. The corpsman set up Rashid's IV inside, posted a guard, left. Emily stayed. "You should be on the walls," Rashid said. "I'm right where I need to be." "Why?" "Because if I'm on the walls and you're in here alone, and the attack succeeds, you die with questions I'll never get to ask." Always practical. Always. The bunker filled with command staff. Major Davis, communications officers, intelligence analysts, everyone focused on screens showing security camera feeds. The base from a dozen angles, waiting for the attack. 0330 hours, 30 minutes to go. Emily checked her sidearm. 17 rounds, 2 spare magazines. Not enough for a prolonged firefight, but enough to make a difference. Rashid watched her. "You're scared. Terrified. But you'll fight anyway. That's the job." She looked at him. "You were right. About the war. About the bodies. About all of it. But we're past the point where being right matters. Now we just survive or we don't. For what it's worth, Rashid said quietly, I'm glad I shot at you. That's a weird thing to say. I'm glad because it led to this, to us, to a choice that actually meant something. He smiled. Most of the war has been meaningless. This part, the last 6 days, that meant something. Emily didn't respond, couldn't. The words were true and terrible and she couldn't afford to acknowledge them. 03:45 hours. The screens showed nothing. Empty desert, quiet mountains, 15 minutes to go. The attack came at 0402, not 0400. Rashid had been off by 2 minutes. Either his intel was slightly wrong or the commander had adjusted timing. Emily noted this professionally. Intel was never perfect. The first wave was exactly as Rashid described. Mortars and rockets, 30 rounds in 90 seconds, targeting communications arrays, vehicles, the fuel depot. But FOB Jackson was ready. Vehicles had been dispersed. Communications arrays had been hardened or moved. Personnel were in bunkers. The barrage was spectacular, fire and smoke and noise, but caused minimal casualties. Wave 2 came before the smoke cleared. Sappers. Emily watched on the screens as they ran toward the perimeter. Explosive vests visible under their clothing, heading for 4 predetermined points in the walls. But defensive teams were positioned at exactly those points. Heavy machine guns opened up. The sappers never reached the walls. They detonated in the open, creating craters but no breaches. Wave 3 should have exploited those non-existent breaches. Instead, it hit a reinforced perimeter with prepared defenders and overhead Apache gunships. The assault lasted 12 minutes, maybe 50 Taliban fighters against 200 prepared defenders with air support. The math was brutally simple. Emily watched the screens, watched the thermal images of fighters advancing, falling, retreating. Watched the Apache's gun camera as 30-millimeter rounds tore through vehicles and personnel. Watched war reduced to pixels and heat signatures. It's over, Davis said. They're breaking contact. On screen, the surviving attackers scattered into the mountains. Maybe 20 of them, maybe less. The assault had failed completely. Emily looked at Rashid. He was watching the same screens, his face gray. Khalil? She asked quietly. Dead. Thermal signature 37. That was his position. Rashid's voice was flat, empty. He led from the front. He always led from the front. I'm sorry. Don't be. This is what I chose. He closed his eyes. I killed him. Not you, not your soldiers. Me. Emily wanted to say something comforting. Wanted to tell him he'd made the right choice, saved lives, prevented worse outcomes. But Rashid didn't need comfort. He needed truth. You killed a lot of people today, she said. Your cousin, his men, all the fighters who would have been freed and gone on to kill others. You did that. I know. And you saved a lot of people. Everyone on this base. All the civilians who would have died in Kabul if those 3 prisoners had been freed. You did that too. Which doesn't make it hurt less. No, it doesn't. She sat next to the stretcher. But it makes it mean something. Your cousin died in a failed attack. You made sure he didn't die in a successful one. There's honor in that, somewhere. Rashid opened his eyes. Do you believe that? I don't know, but I need to. Otherwise, everything I've done, everyone I've killed, it's just bodies, just counting, and I can't live with that. Then we're the same, both trying to find meaning in the math. Yeah. They sat in silence. On the screens, corpsmen were moving through the aftermath, checking casualties, securing the perimeter, the choreography of survival. Major Davis approached. The prisoners, the 3 you mentioned, we're moving them to a secure facility. Higher command wants them isolated until we can verify the Kabul plot. It's real, Rashid said. Everything I told you is real. We'll verify it anyway. Davis looked at Emily. And you. Hell of a job bringing him in. Hell of a judgment call trusting his intel. Thank you, sir. Don't thank me yet. We still need to debrief you thoroughly. Your report is going to raise questions about protocol, about fraternization with enemy combatants, about... I understand, sir. I'll answer whatever questions you have. Davis nodded, left. Emily looked at Rashid. What happens to you now? Prison, probably. Interrogation. Years of questions about Taliban operations. He smiled, tired. If I survive that long, this infection might beat them to it. The doctors say you've got a chance. Small chance. Better than you had 6 days ago. True. He reached out, touched her hand. Thank you for carrying me, for believing me, for giving me a chance to do something that mattered. Emily squeezed his hand once, then let go. Thank you for not killing me when you had the chance. We're even then. No, we're not, and we never will be. She stood. But maybe that's okay. Maybe war isn't about being even. Maybe it's about making choices we can live with. Or die with. That too. 3 days later, Emily stood outside the medical facility. Rashid had stabilized. The infection was controlled. The chest wound was healing. He'd lived to face interrogation, prison, whatever came next. She hadn't seen him since the attack, had been stuck in debriefings, hours of questions about the mission, the choices, the journey, about why she'd saved an enemy combatant instead of confirming the kill. She'd answered honestly, told them everything, waited for the consequences. Reynolds had called her from Virginia, said he'd heard about the mission, asked if she was okay. I did what you taught me, she'd told him. I saw 3 moves ahead. And I'm still trying to figure out if I made the right choices. That's normal. The hard choices never feel right. They just feel necessary. Now she was standing outside the medical facility, wondering if this was necessary or stupid. The guard recognized her, waved her through. Rashid was sitting up in bed. Color had returned to his face. He looked like a person again, instead of a corpse waiting to happen. They're moving me tomorrow, he said when she entered. Secure facility in Kabul. Interrogation and processing. I know. You came to say goodbye. I came to see if you needed anything. What I need you can't give me, he smiled. Time with my daughter, a different war, a world where enemies can be friends. Can't help with those. I know. He looked at her. But you can tell me something, the truth. Do you regret it, saving me? Emily thought about this, about the 6 days in the mountains, about carrying him when he couldn't walk, about the conversations that changed how she saw the war. No, she said finally, I don't regret it. Even though I cost you? Cost me what? Your certainty, your ability to see the world in clear sides, enemy and friend, good and evil. Maybe I needed to lose that, or maybe you needed to keep it. Certainty makes war easier. Easier isn't the same as better. She sat down. You asked me once why I kept saving you. I didn't have a good answer then, but I do now. What is it? Because Reynolds taught me that every soldier is someone's son, brother, father. Every kill is someone's loss. And if I stop seeing that, if I stop recognizing the human cost, then I'm just a machine, just counting bodies. And you don't want to be a machine. No, I want to be a soldier who remembers why she's fighting. She met his eyes. You helped me remember that. So no, I don't regret it. Rashid was quiet for a long moment. I have something for you. What? He reached under his pillow, pulled out a small object wrapped in gauze, handed it to her. Emily unwrapped it, found a worn photograph. A little girl, maybe 7 years old, smiling at the camera. Dark eyes, bright smile. Amira, Rashid said, my daughter, I want you to have it. Why? Because I need you to remember that everyone you kill has someone like her. Someone waiting for them. Someone who'll never understand why they didn't come home. Emily tried to hand it back. I can't. Keep it, please. His voice was urgent. Keep it and remember that the enemy has families too, has reasons, has humanity. Don't let this war turn you into someone who forgets that. Emily looked at the photograph, at the little girl who would grow up without a father, at the cost of choices made in mountains and bunkers. Okay, she said quietly, I'll keep it. Thank you. She stood to leave. Rashid called after her. Emily? She turned. It was the first time he'd used her name. What you did, carrying me, trusting me, believing me, it mattered. Not just to me, to everyone who would have died if you'd made the easy choice. He smiled. You're a good soldier. Don't let them take that from you. I'll try. And tell Reynolds. Tell him he taught you well. I will. She left, walked out into the Afghan morning. The sun was already hot, the air already dusty. Another day in a war that wouldn't end. But somewhere in the mountains, there were 80 fewer bodies than there would have been. Somewhere in Kabul, hundreds of civilians would live because 3 prisoners stayed locked up. The math was still ugly, but it was better math than it could have been. Emily walked toward the operations center. Her debriefing was complete, her report filed. Orders would come soon. Another mission, another mountain, another set of impossible choices. She touched the photograph in her pocket, felt the weight of it, the reminder. Reynolds had been right. War was about seeing 3 moves ahead, but it was also about remembering that every move had a cost. Every choice left a scar. Every body had a name. She could live with that, just barely, but she could live with it. And for now, in this war, that was enough. 4 months later, Emily sat in a coffee shop in Virginia. Small town, quiet street, afternoon sun streaming through windows. Reynolds sat across from her, older than she remembered, more gray hair, deeper lines around his eyes. So, he said, you saved the enemy. I saved a person who happened to be the enemy. Same thing. Not really. She sipped her coffee. He saved me first. I was just returning the favor. That's not what the report says. Report says you made a tactical decision to preserve an intelligence asset. The report's wrong, but it's easier than the truth. Which is? Emily thought about mountains and floods and conversations in the dark, about carrying Rashid when he couldn't walk, about learning that enemies were just people on the wrong side of a line someone else drew. The truth is, I wasn't sure I was saving him. I was just trying not to kill him. There's a difference. Reynolds nodded slowly. How's he doing? The detainee. Rashid. His name is Rashid. She pulled out the photograph. He has a daughter, Amira, 7 years old. He gave me this. Asked me to remember that everyone I kill has someone like her. Reynolds studied the photo. That's a heavy thing to carry. Yeah. Will it change how you fight? No, but it'll change how I think about it. She put the photo away. You taught me to see 3 moves ahead. He taught me to see the 4th move, the one where someone's daughter grows up without a father. That's not a tactical consideration. Maybe it should be. They sat in silence. Outside, traffic moved past. Normal people living normal lives. No mountains, no bullets, no impossible choices. I got orders, Emily said. Deployment to Syria, 6 months, advise and assist mission. You taking it? What choice do I have? You could get out. You've done your time, more than your time. And do what? Forget everything I've seen? Pretend the war isn't still happening? No. Remember everything and find a different way to fight. Emily looked at him. Is that what you did? Retired and fished and pretended the war was over? I retired and fished and remembered every name in my notebook, every soldier I lost, every choice I made. He leaned forward. And I taught people like you to be better than I was, to think beyond the mission, to remember the human cost. Did it work? You tell me. You saved a life instead of taking one. You prevented a massacre. You came home with questions instead of certainties. He smiled. Yeah, I'd say it worked. But I'm going back. To Syria. To more missions. More choices. Because that's who you are. A soldier. Reynolds touched her hand. But you're a soldier who carries photos of enemy daughters, who questions orders, who thinks about the fourth move. That makes you dangerous. To everyone. Dangerous to who? To people who want war to be simple, easy, us versus them. He squeezed her hand. Never lose that. The complexity, the doubt. The moment you're certain about killing, you've lost something important. Emily nodded, couldn't speak, throat tight with everything she'd carried for 6 months. I wrote his name down, Reynolds said quietly. Rashid, in my notebook, along with all the others. Why? He didn't die. No, but he sacrificed himself anyway. Different kind of death, betraying everything he believed to do the right thing. That deserves remembering. He pulled out a worn notebook, opened it to a page near the end. Names written in neat handwriting, dozens of them, hundreds. And at the bottom, Rashid, enemy, ally, human. When you kill someone in Syria, Reynolds said, I want you to think about this page, about all these names, about the math we're doing. And I want you to ask yourself, is this kill necessary or is it just easy? And if I can't tell the difference, then don't pull the trigger. Find another way. Because the moment we stop asking that question, we're just machines counting bodies. Emily took the notebook, read the names, soldiers Reynolds had lost, people who'd trusted him, followed him, died under his command. This is what you carry, she said, every day. Does it get lighter? No, but you get stronger. She handed back the notebook, finished her coffee, stood to leave. Emily, Reynolds called, one more thing. What? You did good. In those mountains, with Rashid. You made choices I couldn't have made, saw futures I couldn't have seen. He smiled. I'm proud of you. Even though I violated protocol, fraternized with the enemy, risked the mission, especially because of that, because you chose humanity over procedure, right over easy. Emily nodded, couldn't trust her voice. She walked out into Virginia sunshine. 6 weeks until deployment, 6 weeks to prepare for Syria, for more missions, more mountains, more impossible choices. She touched the photograph in her pocket, felt its weight, its reminder. Somewhere in Afghanistan, Rashid was in prison, answering questions, paying for his betrayal, living with choices that cost him everything. Somewhere in Kabul, Amira was growing up, learning to smile without her father, paying for a war she didn't start. And somewhere in Syria, more soldiers were making more choices. More math, more bodies. The war wouldn't end, not in her lifetime. Maybe not ever. But she could fight it differently. See the fourth move. Remember the names. Carry the weight without letting it crush her. Reynolds had taught her to see 3 moves ahead. Rashid had taught her to see the cost of all 3. Together, they'd taught her how to be a soldier who stayed human. That was enough. It had to be enough. Because the alternative, becoming a machine that counted bodies without seeing names, was a war she'd already decided not to fight. Emily walked to her car, got in, started the engine. Syria awaited. More missions, more choices, more math. But this time she wouldn't count alone. This time she'd carry Amira's photograph, Reynolds' notebook, Rashid's sacrifice. This time she'd remember that every trigger pull had a fourth move. A little girl waiting for someone who wouldn't come home. And maybe, just maybe, that would make her a better soldier. Or at least a more human one. 6 months later, Syria. Emily crouched on a rooftop in Aleppo, rifle scope pressed against her eye, target in the crosshairs. Male, mid-30s, armed, confirmed hostile, easy shot, clean kill. By the book engagement. Her finger rested on the trigger. 2 pounds of pressure. That's all it would take. One twitch, one decision, one more body for the count. She thought about futures, 3 moves ahead. Move 1, pull trigger. Target eliminated. Mission success. Return to base. Move 2, target's cell loses coordination. Supply route disrupted. American lives saved. Move 3, intelligence gathered from target's phone. More operations, more missions, more kills. But there was a fourth move, the one Rashid had taught her to see. Move 4. Somewhere, someone waited for this man. Wife, daughter, mother. Someone who would receive news that would tear their world apart. Someone who would grow up asking why. Why war? Why death? Why their person didn't come home? Emily adjusted her aim. Fired. The round hit the ground 3 inches from the target's feet. He dove for cover, scrambled, ran, disappeared into the building. Emily's radio crackled. Sierra 2-6, what's your status? Did you miss? She looked at the empty rooftop where the target had been standing. Thought about choice, about the weight of mercy, about being a machine versus being human. Negative, she transmitted. Target warned off. He's running. Send ground team to his last known location. I'm moving to intercept. Confirm, you intentionally missed? Confirm. Target can be captured alive. More intelligence value alive than dead. It was a lie. She knew it was a lie. The target would probably escape, probably fight another day, probably create more problems down the road. But he'd also live. And whoever was waiting for him would get one more day, one more week, one more chance. The math was different. But it was her math, her choice, her fourth move. She packed her rifle, moved to the extraction point, reported the mission outcome, target escaped, opportunity for capture missed, lessons learned for next time. Command wasn't happy, but they didn't court-martial her either, just filed it as an operational variance. Imperfect execution in imperfect conditions. That night, Emily pulled out Amira's photograph, looked at the smiling 7-year-old, wondered how she was doing, wondered if Rashid was still alive in some Afghan prison, wondered if the choices they'd made in those mountains still mattered. She wrote a letter, not to Rashid, that wasn't allowed, but to Reynolds. Sir, today I had a clear shot, easy kill, by the book. I fired 3 inches wide, warned the target off, let him run. I don't know if it was the right call. Maybe he'll kill someone tomorrow. Maybe I just traded one life for another. The math doesn't work out clean. But I remembered what you said, about the moment we stop asking if a kill is necessary versus easy, about staying human instead of becoming a machine. I asked the question, and I chose mercy over certainty. Maybe that makes me a bad soldier, or maybe it makes me the kind of soldier worth being. Either way, I'm still carrying the weight, still seeing the fourth move, still counting but remembering the names too. Rashid taught me that every trigger pull has a cost. You taught me that the cost is worth tracking. Together, you taught me how to fight a war without losing myself completely. Thank you for that, for giving me permission to be complicated, to doubt, to choose humanity when procedure says to choose efficiency. I don't know if the war will ever end, but I know I can keep fighting it without hating who I become. That's enough. It has to be. Emily. She sealed the letter, would mail it tomorrow. Knew Reynolds would understand. Knew he'd write back with some wisdom about impossible choices and necessary humanity. She put Amira's photograph back in her pocket, felt its weight, its reminder. Outside, Syria burned. Somewhere, soldiers made choices, pulled triggers, counted bodies. But Emily Carter was learning a different math, one that included fourth moves and photographs and mercy when she could afford it. One that remembered that war was fought by people, not machines, and people could choose to stay human, even when it was hard, even when it was imperfect, even when it didn't work out clean. She closed her eyes, thought about mountains and floods, and conversations with the enemy, thought about Rashid's daughter, Reynolds' notebook, the weight of choices that mattered, thought about being a soldier who stayed human, and decided that was a war worth fighting. Every day, every mission, every impossible choice, one fourth move at a time.